What's up, guys? This is Jesse DeRozier with Hydrilla Gorilla Guide Service here on Lake Guntersville. Today's date, September 20th, 2025, and this is what's on the deck. So this week, we've continued to see the water temperatures continue to drop just a little bit. It's been very slow in the process. We've had some cooler nights, not really cold nights, and as a result, they just keep creeping down. In the mornings, we've been seeing water temps around 77. By midday or afternoon, we're seeing it hit somewhere around 80. On a really sunny or warm day, 81, 82. As a result, we're still seeing these fish really scattered and in transition, and as a result, the deck is pretty much a yard sale this week. We've got a lot of different baits that we're going to cover tonight. It's just that month of transition. It results in having to have a lot of options available to you if you're going to be out there and kind of fish throughout the day, because things are going to randomly change as wind picks up, cloud cover, water temperatures changing throughout the day from 77 to 82, and these fish are constantly doing different things. As a result, you're having to move around and find them in different places, and you've got to have a lot of options right now. So let's go ahead and get started on the options that we've got on the deck this week and see how we caught our fish. So I know last week I said pretty much I was down to one soft plastic. Well, I thought I was going to be. I didn't add much back in, but I did still stick with that baby brush hog that I had mentioned. Saw fewer fish caught on that this week, and the reason why is the couple days that I had to pick up soft plastic, it was literally, slick calm. It was just flat water, kind of hot and stagnant, and the fish just were not willing to chase anything down. So we had to go low and slow, literally just picking up a Senko, working around grass edges, and we're picking off fish here and there. Not my preference or preferred style of fishing, as I am more of a power fisherman. Finesse fishing for me is, it's hard for me to slow down that much. So having to pick up a Senko is, it tells you the bite was tough. Now let's go ahead and get into the moving baits and more power fishing side of things of what we were doing this week. When we did have the windy conditions or cloud cover, low light conditions, the fish would react on different styles of baits. So let's go ahead and get started on which ones we used. The schooling fish tend to come up every afternoon. They show up somewhere between 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you're looking to catch a lot of fish, not necessarily after your sizable fish, and you'll still catch some quality in there, but a lot of numbers right now are going to be caught on those schooling fish. To chase those, I like baits that I can move fairly quickly or cast a long way so that I can reach those schools when they come up, because they don't always come up right next to you. If you're going to be trolling towards these, I would highly recommend, if you're going to speed up towards them, make sure to take your foot off and kind of glide into the area, or really turn your trolling motor down as you're moving into them, because you'll shut the school down and they won't come back up. If we're a long ways away, one of the best baits that I really like to throw out there is going to be a lipless. It's something that I can throw a really long ways and be able to get this to those fish as quickly as possible. I can move through them quickly, get a reaction bite, catch a couple fish before they go back down. This one obviously is going to have that representation of the thread fin with that chartreuse down its side. This one is translucent. Now, if I'm throwing a translucent profile, you've got to keep also, or I would recommend keeping also, a painted side. If you're going to be fishing multiple days during the week and be fishing different conditions. If you're not, you're specific to that day. High sky, clear water, go with your translucent color. If you got a little bit of stain in the water, or you've moved up the river, run into that, or clouds start to roll in, I'm going to be throwing a painted side. So makes a difference how many fish you're going to catch if you don't make those adjustments. Same deal with the next set of baits is going to be jerk baits. Now, when it comes to jerk baits, it's probably one of the best baits this time of year, and I would highly recommend trying to downsize. The biggest thing that I do is keep a couple of color versions, as well as sounds, different brands, And again, translucent, chrome, you know, different color patterns. This is the 65 SP65 by Lucky Craft. This is a dynamite little jerkbait. Suspends, has the right size profile for what we're looking for. Downsized jerkbaits, it's not going to get down very deep, so it's not one that you're really going to be pulling them up from the bottom. It's just that when they're up on the surface. The one that I'm going to go to pull them up off the bottom once they've went down is going to be its big brother. I think it's SP90. This is their Stacy. Now this one gets down obviously a little bit deeper, so when they went down, say they're in 7-8 foot of water, this is one that you can get down to them and get right over the tops of their head, because what will happen is you've got that grass growing up off the bottom, and they will literally lay their bellies right in between the groups of the grass. You'll run right over the top of them with your live scope and never even see that they're there. So once they go down, they're going to become almost invisible a lot of times and not really be moving around. They're just going to sit there and wait for the next wave of threadfin to kind of come over the top of their heads. So having that jerkbait there that you can get down to those fish and be able to get one or two to kind of come up and get ignited, you can a lot of times get that school to lift again and get them going. As I had mentioned, I also like chrome. This is probably one of the best jerkbaits on the market. It's an old school Smithwick Rattling Rogue. A lot of guys don't like it because it's light. It doesn't have a weight transfer system. So you've got to put it on a light action rod. You've got to put it either on, you know, an open face or a really light bait caster, one that's, you know, got some pretty good flex to it. But I'm telling you guys, if you've ever thrown one of these, you know what I'm talking about. This is a little 4-inch version of a 2-hook series, not the 3-hook. Chrome and blue. It's probably the best jerkbait that I've ever thrown out here. It will absolutely smash them when they're schooling on threadfin. If you're on threadfin that are super tiny, smallest jerkbait, or one of the smallest jerkbaits that you can find, is going to be a little Rapala. This is one's probably closer to like a 60 series. They don't call it that, but that's just kind of like the size of it. But it's just a little translucent, tiny jerkbait. Again, it's not going to work very deep. You're probably looking at 2.5 foot of water is all the deeper that's going to get. But when they're blowing up on the surface and they're coming up to chase bait, they're not looking for the ones that are down very deep if you're looking at catching those actual active schoolers. What I would recommend is having something there as far as either the deep jerkbait or one that you can kill and kind of let go down through those schools, because a lot of times you'll have some of those bigger fish sitting underneath the bait. They're not willing to go up and chase those little bitty minnows. It's just too much work for those bigger class fish. They don't want to expend the energy to do that, so they'll swim around underneath these schools and just kind of eat the ones that have been injured and have kind of floundered down below the school. In that situation, I'm just going to pick up a soft jerkbait and throw a fluke. You can twitch it through the school, kill it, and then just let it die. Let it get down there, give it a little light twitch every once in a blue moon, just make it look like it's dying. And sometimes you'll get that bigger class fish. You'll just see your line jump all of a sudden. Just reel down into it until it tightens up and swing. The next one is going to be more topwater oriented. You can work it subsurface as well, but that is the Kredge. So again, the jerkbait profile, but that blade is turned upward. So the purpose of this bait is twofold. You can work it as a topwater. You can throw it out, just reel it across the top, and it's got a really good shimmy. Basically, it just kind of does this across the top of the water. It looks like a little minnow cutting a V across the top. You'll get a lot of blow-ups on that bait this time of year. If for some reason one blows up and misses it, and you want to kill it, make it look like it's injured, the second you kill it, it falls backwards and it goes subsurface. It's going to dive basically backwards back to those fish. They can't stand that action. Again, watch your line. You're just going to see it jump. The second you do, you know you got them. The next is going to be the topwater walking baits. And I'm going to go one of two ways. I'm either going really big or I'm going really small. I won't go with kind of that mid-size range this time of year. I'm looking for the fish that are eating gizzards, which are going to be your bigger class fish typically, or the ones that are definitely keying on the thread fin. If I'm going for the ones eating gizzards, again, I'm going to keep 2 colors tied up on the deck of the boat, just based on those weather conditions. I'm going to go with a true translucent. That is the Sexy Dog by Strike King, again in that big version. And I'll always have a bone color. Chrome is also a very good option as well. I will say chrome is definitely a dynamite color to have out this time of year, as with that jerkbait. But I like the bone. If I got cloudy conditions or anything like that, I'm going to take that big walking bait in a bone color and be working that out there. Next is a very small bait. It's one that's no longer in productivity. You guys, if you've been watching my series for a while, you know I like a lot of old school baits. The reason why I like them is because not many people throw them. You think about it, everybody's after the new thing that's coming out because the fish haven't seen it. Well, guess what? These old school baits, they ain't seen in a long time either. So it's just like a brand new bait coming out. The one that I'm throwing, you can still get your hands on. You can go on eBay, you might get it out at yard sale, marketplace, but you can still get your hands on them, and that is the old school Bill Dance Spit and Image. About a 3-inch bait, maybe 3 1/4 inches. This thing walks really good. Put it on an open face or a really light action, like a medium action 6'6" little jerkbait rod or something like that. I've got it paired on only 12-pound monofilament because I want this thing to walk, and it will not hesitate if you keep it on lighter line. I'm going to throw this either out over those schooling fish in open water, or I'll throw it up to the edge of a grass line, but not necessarily over the grass. The reason why not over the grass is obviously if they bury down in it, you don't have braid or a heavier line to get them out. Last thing I want to be doing is losing a bait that's hard to get my hands on. So I am kind of cautious about where I do throw that one. Last on that side of the boat is going to be poplar. Now, the reason for a poplar, especially this time of year, is when they're schooling, you got them coming up in, say, a 12, 15-foot circle schooling. This is something you can throw right in the middle of them and keep it there. It's not going to move very far, but it's going to draw a lot of attention. And as a result, because they're getting a good look at it, because it's not really moving around, I'm going to stick with that translucent color, as you can see through that bait right there. And I'm also going to make sure it has a teaser tail. A teaser tail is a big deal this time of year because it's going to help separate you from that pack of all those little tiny threadfin shad running around. When they hit this, a lot of times they will absolutely come unglued on it. Be prepared for the strike. Just reel in softly. Don't, aggressively yank. Just reel in. Give a good solid pull. Those fish will stay on. If you yank too hard, you take a chance of popping that little loop knot that you put on there. And the loop knot is a must when it comes to a poplar. If you don't, you're going to really limit the action of that bait. So you've got to tone down that hook set a little bit. The other side of the boat is more my single hook baits. So I usually separate my boat to kind of help me, because I keep a lot of rods in my boat. As you can tell, I rig a lot of rods for my trips. One side of the boat, I keep my treble hooks, light rods like open faces and things like that, all on one side of the boat. My other side of the boat, my heavy hooks, stiffer flash rods, and so on, so that when I'm putting them away, I put reel covers and rod covers on every one of them. They're all paired up to the specific rods, and it gets very difficult to keep up with if you're kind of crisscrossing rods. So I'm very specific on how I keep my rods organized. That said, on this side of the boat is going to be my single hook baits. My first is, again, going with a small profile. That's a Dirty Jigs 3/8 ounce guppy head, and I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to run it down on the bottom. Now, you can tell when I run these things, I wear the paint off the nose of them. I'm running it through shell, gravel, any type of hard bottom, but a small profile right now is going to get bit. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to throw it out there in those hard pan areas or just outside the grass lines. Not going to be getting it into the grass. Keep it out there and just bring it along those outside edges where you're seeing those fish either on your 360 or your live scope or your side imaging, however you're finding your fish. You want to be basically on the outside edge or a hard surface area if you're going to be throwing that, because you're going to be getting it all the way to the bottom. The next bait I'm also getting all the way to the bottom. I'm doing the same thing, same size head, but again, look at the nose of that. Paint is gone off of that. It's a 3/8 ounce guppy head, but the underspin version from Dirty Jigs. And I'm pairing that with a 3.5 inch blue minnow is the color. Producer Swimbaits, that's their Swiminator. And that is my go-to in the fall when it comes to swim bait. It's very hard to get me to throw anything but that in the fall unless I'm really just needing to get really, really small. Next one is again that same Swiminator on an underspin, but this one I'm running up in the water column, so I'm not getting this one all the way down. This is kind of like my 4-wheel drive to go through the grass. I can run this literally through the grass with no problem, same as you would like a swim jig or something like that, but it's going to have that true minnow profile. The other thing that I can do with this, I can throw it on the top of a mat, swim it right off the edge, but this is going to be mid-water column, and this is a 5/0 flashy swimmer by Owner with a 1/4 ounce weight. Last week I thought, when I said I was trying to think of what the weight was, I said that I thought it was 3/16. It's actually not. It's a 1/4 ounce weight is what I pair with that. That weight is absolutely perfect pairing and that hook size for that bait. Next is going to be my chatterbaits. With a chatterbait, basically, I'm trying to represent one of two fish. I'm either looking to represent a gizzard shad or that threadfin. The gizzard shad, I'm going to go with the larger profile. Again, chatterbait with no chartreuse in it. I'm going to be trying to represent that gizzard shad. I've got that 3.5 Swiminator on there, and that's going to be my trailer. Now, if you look at this thing, I don't know if you can see the teeth marks on that bait. That thing has absolutely been chewed. They will maul that bait. Next one is also a chatterbait, but again, we're talking about looking at trying to represent the threadfin. Threadfin are small, going with a small mini max with, I think it's like a 3.5 inch. Shoot. Drew a blank here, guys. Well, shoot. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. But in that, it's got that little bit of chartreuse to it to be able to represent that thread fin. So again, keeping it very, very small. The spinnerbait, again, I'm still keeping with that Georgia blade spinnerbait and 3.5 inch or 3.5 blade and a number 4, keeping them really small, translucent skirt, and no trailer. The reason why I'm running no trailer again is I'm trying to keep that small profile. The only thing that you might do is maybe add a couple strands of chartreuse in on your skirt, but I would still kind of keep it translucent. So I could actually either dye that with chartreuse, or just I could even tie in a couple strands of chartreuse if I wanted to. But when it comes to a spinnerbait head, that head right there, I was surprised when I started throwing it, guys. That thing tracks as true as it comes. I don't know that I've ever seen a spinnerbait actually run that true as a really, really good spinnerbait. Again, that's a Georgia blade spinnerbait. The next bait is going to be that little swim jig. Now this week I downsized it. I was throwing a 3/8 last week. This week I actually went to a 1/4 ounce so that I can throw it over submerged grass that was, you know, only like a foot or two below the surface, and be able to keep it up and keep it clean. Again, with a small short trailer, 3-inch little swim bait, and again, translucent color skirt. The translucent skirt just makes it a little bit harder for them to be able to kind of get a good look at it and realize that it is, you know, not something that they really want to eat. Next is going to be Topwaters. So the buzzbait, last week I was throwing a black, and I still have the black one ready to go. I changed over to the white this week. The reason why is because I was throwing it around more areas where I was seeing a lot more bait fish. If I'm throwing in an area where I'm not really seeing the bait fish around, I'm probably going to go with the black or low light conditions. High sun, middle of the day, or where there's a lot of bait flicking around, I'm going to change over and be throwing the white. And it just dawned on me, spunk shad. So it's their little version of their spunk shad is what I'm using for the trailer for that. Next is my swimming frog that I've been showing each week. I finally had to change over to a new one. This is the Cane Toad by Gambler. The reason again that I like this one is just the material that it's made from. It's just a little bit different texture than your standard soft plastic, and as a result it tends to grab really well on the lily pads. So that bait I pretty much keep in the boat just for that purpose. If I'm going to be fishing lily pads, that's probably the bait that I'm going to be throwing around it. If I'm fishing grass mats, big thick grass mats, I'm going to be picking up the SPRO frog, typically white or black, or you can do as I did here, join the two best colors there is and throw a white and black combo. I really like this frog. It gets a lot of bites, but it has a very soft plastic to it. That's one thing I will say, guys. If you're going to throw a frog, there's a few companies out there that I would highly recommend that you stay away from, just due to the fact that when you touch their plastic, it takes an act of Congress to be able to get that plastic to go down, and as a result it's going to cost you on hookups. There's a lot of companies out there who've figured that out and have made theirs very soft, and as a result those are going to be the ones that you want to go to. But that SPRO frog is definitely my go-to when it comes to frog fishing. Next is going to be punching. With punching, you're looking for that bigger class fish. Obviously you're going into the deep stuff or the thick stuff, and as a result you've got to be prepared for it, which is going to mean heavy rod, heavy line, heavy weight, and heavy hook. This is a spicy beaver, and I know everybody is going to probably blow me up on this, but I've actually started experimenting with, I still run a straight shank hook, but I actually went and rigged this with just your standard worm hook. The difference is you still snell knot it, right? So standard worm hook, it's a little heavier gauge, but on the spicy beaver you've got a little spot that kind of sticks up beyond the soft plastic, which absolutely works perfect for the catch on a straight shank hook or for a regular worm hook. And everybody's like, oh well, you throw the straight shank hook so that, you know, it kicks the bait out. Well, guess what? If you take a regular worm hook and you snell knot it, it does the same thing, guys. There's no difference. So do you have to run a straight shank? No. You can if you want to, and some of those hooks are definitely really beefy hooks, but if you're not comfortable throwing a straight shank hook, don't feel like you have to. The other thing is with that spicy beaver, this bait that I'm throwing if I'm looking for action. So when it falls, it's going to kick and give it a lot of action. Sometimes it's what it takes. Give them something that kind of entices them. Other times it's too much and you just want a bait that's going to fall straight through. And that's where I'm picking up my beaver style. When the beaver style falls in, it just kind of just glides straight down, or kind of will turn just a hair as it glides in. Depends on if that weight is dead straight over the hook or if it's got a little bit of a kick. If it's got a little bit of a kick when it goes through, a lot of times it'll make it kind of turn as it drops, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually like that. But again, you can see I'm throwing also a standard straight shank hook. So I started experimenting, just seeing, was there a difference in the hookup? Did it make a difference not throwing a straight shank hook. So it was an experiment that I did a couple weeks ago, and I've got to be 100% honest, guys. I've seen zero difference in my hookup ratio. Still hook up just as good. I will make the statement though that you want to make sure that if you're going to use the EWG style hook or a worm style hook that has that little offset hook shank, that you make sure that you've got a hook that's beefy enough to handle 65-pound braid and an extra heavy rod. If you don't, that may end up costing you fish because it straightens out. But is it absolutely required to run a straight shank hook? No, it's not. So don't feel obligated to follow the pattern with that. Is it a great way to go? Yes. But is it 100% necessary? No. The other thing that I would recommend, guys, is make sure that you are taking some Thump Gel. Put it on those baits, because when we're trying to punch through those mats, you've got an ounce and a quarter, sometimes ounce and a half, even sometimes up to a 2-ounce weight, and trying to get a bait to go through that grass that's got ribs on the side of it will grab, and it will help to kind of lubricate that, putting that Thump Gel on there so it'll kind of slip through that grass. Not only that, once they pick it up, obviously they've got this big heavy piece of tungsten in their mouth. Doesn't feel very natural to them. There's nothing they eat that weighs that much in one spot inside their mouth, and that they're going to want to spit it. So by adding the Thump Gel, it will make a difference on keeping that on there. The other modification that I try to make sure that you guys think about each week is also your trailers. So with that spunk shad, I'm going to make sure, guys, I'm taking the Avid Anglers Fishing Solutions glue and putting that on there. I don't care if it's underspin, chatterbait, if it's spinnerbait trailer, that little swim bait on the jig head, whatever it is. If you want to save money on your soft plastics, make sure you're gluing your baits on. Otherwise, you're just costing yourself a lot of money. For the cost of that 1 drop of glue, you can catch 10 or 12 fish instead of 1 to 2 fish. The last bait this week, guys, is definitely one that's coming back onto the deck, and for good reason, is because if you're looking for a big fish this time of year, this will definitely do it, and that is the bull wake. Now the bull wake this time of year, you can throw, this is the gizzard shad, or you can pull out the bone color. Either one right now will absolutely get you bit. As I mentioned, sticking with a small profile if you're around those thread fin. If you're seeing those 5-6 inch gizzards up running around, you're in a good area. Think about it. Those fish that are feeding on that are going to eat on this right here. This is the size bait that they're chasing up there. And some guys are like, oh, it's too big of a bait. I promise you it's not. They will absolutely crush this bait, and you'll be surprised at the explosion that you get on it. You'll be thanking me if you pick it up and throw it. It's definitely a bait that you're not going to get as many bites on, but the bites that you get will be well worth it. Once you start getting out there and finding the right type of structure to throw that on, it's amazing the fish that you'll catch. But that's pretty much it for this week, guys. I hope this information helps you out. I know it's kind of a little bit longer video this week, and the reason why is just we've had a lot of stuff on the deck this week. It's a hodgepodge this week, and probably will be for a couple more weeks until we start seeing some colder temps come in. That said, I am actually having wrist surgery on Monday. I've got a ganglion cyst in my wrist that I'm having removed. It's going to put me out of work for a couple of weeks. But what I may try to do is actually put up some videos, maybe some like tackle tips or modification tips or anything like that, to be able to get some content out there for you guys. I will hopefully still be getting out on the water, so I may still be able to do a video of this as well. It may be a little bit more limited, might not be so in-depth, because I'll be riding around with friends of mine who are out fishing, and all I'm going to be doing is just basically riding along, kind of keeping company, but it's going to kind of keep my mind engaged with what's going on the lake, so that when I do go back to work, I'm ready to go. So I may have a video in the next week or two, not 100% sure, but definitely will be looking to maybe put out some modification videos or tackle tips or anything like that in the meantime. So keep tuned for that. Until next week, guys, hope to see you out on the water and tight lines.